Every year, you have a choice. One that says staying independent and family-owned means something on your farm. So plant your independence. Plant Wyffels.
Welcome back, guys, to a new episode of InCYde Zone. I'm Jacqueline Cordova, and this week it's just Colin, Newell, and Jirehl Brock. Remy is in the sky currently, maybe? He was in New York visiting a friend. Jirehl, your face.
Yeah, man. Remy he realized that he was going to have to break down a loss, and he was like, let me just go as far as away possible as I can. So he's up in the sky right now. He's flying away from us all right now. So
I'm very curious how he would open the show for us.
I don't know. He thought he was getting trolled by the Big 12 when they said party like it's 2008 or whatever. I don't remember what game it was, but
man,
he felt like he was getting trolled.
He's crying right now. He's like all Cyclone Nation, just trying to get over this loss, trying to get into a new week to where we can get that loss, put that loss behind us, and try and get a W again. Just trying to get to game day. That's one thing about football. We kind of always talk about it like as a team. Like it's not like basketball where you get to like maybe the next night or the night after you get to go try and get a win again and kind of put that last loss behind you. You got to sit with it for a whole week. But you know, it's something that we were hoping that it wasn't going to happen this year. But it finally did. So now we gotta talk about it.
Yeah, I'm truthfully, you know what? There's a lot to look forward to. Obviously the Cyclone fans heading down to Kansas, a lot of us will be there. Cool thing. Jack tries south. Let's make it happen. And but yeah, you know, it was something that it's not fun to look at. And the biggest thing I think Coach Campbell hit on it is they never got into a rhythm. Iowa State kind of, you know, I'm not saying they beat themselves, but they didn't help themselves. They never were able to get into a rhythm today or yesterday. And be really efficient, get those big plays. Defense gets off the field in key situations. Offense makes those big plays, special teams. I mean, there's no one area, one side of the football. There's no one player, anything like that you can just look at and say that's why Iowa State lost yesterday, which is kind of tough, but a huge opportunity for them to regroup and go out there as a team and take a step forward.
Well,
yeah, it was really one of those rocky games, wasn't it? Like I wasn't there. I mean, you guys tell me, like, how was it as a fan, like being there? Like, how was it, like, emotion wise? I guess
it definitely didn't have the same juice I thought that some of the games this season have had, but it was still a good environment. The stadium was almost full.
Yeah, it was a sold out crowd. It was like in the game notes. It was like, oh gosh, where is it? This was the 18th sellout in the current configuration in the third of this season. So there were still a lot of fans, but yeah,
was it sustained?
Tough.
Was it sustained throughout the whole game? Like, because I don't know, just on camera, it looked like once it started raining a little bit more, it looked like it was going down a little bit, or people were like heading out a little bit.
Sukup definitely had some people go into Sukup indoors, which is understandable.
Yeah. They have access to it.
But for the most part, truthfully, it was kind of like one of those situations where you get to the end of the game and you're like, I wish some people would have left already. And we were up by 21 points because it's a little bit easier to get out of the stadium. Like, it took longer to get out of the stadium this week, I thought, than other weeks because people did stay around. So they bear the weather, situations like that, and it was still a great environment. You know, they did a lot of good things. The crowd has been good, but you know, it's easy when you get that 60-70 yard touchdown throw or pass or pick six or something like that. It's a lot easier to get a crowd going, and you know, we didn't have a ton of those situations yesterday.
I didn't really feel them go silent until towards the end of the game. Like towards the very end of the game, I can't remember what had happened. Maybe it was probably when Texas Tech scored, is my guess. The entire stadium went dead silent. It was very like unsettling to feel it, which makes sense. I mean, the fourth quarter was when the rain really picked up. It was honestly really miserable. I'm sure I would have enjoyed it way more if Iowa State was up, but which this makes me think of something. I'm sure football coaches say it too, but I think of it because Dresser says it all the time, that you go from being the hunter to the hunted when you become a better team. And so like watching Texas Tech just lose their minds and like a few of their fans and like a very dead silent Jack Trice was just like, it just sucked.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think credit to Iowa State and the environment we've created at Jack Trice a little bit too. Like coming into Jack Trice is a hard place to play. So when you come in here and beat Iowa State at home when they're 7-0, like that's a big win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You know, when you're undefeated in a team. I mean, I think about when we've went into places and stormed the field after Texas when they missed a field goal. We stormed the field because we knew that was a huge win. We were going to the big, like people know that when it's a big game, and that's going to happen when they win. And you know, we have the pleasure of feeling. I guess it's kind of a pleasure of feeling that way, because knowing that we're that team now that people are trying to beat, and it wasn't always like that.
No, and that's a big testament to the growth of the program, because just like you said, the tweet that Remy sent to us in the group chat was the Big 12 Conference tweeted, "Party like it's 2008. The Red Raiders complete their first upset over a 7-0 team in 16 years." That sucks for Iowa State, but also that's a huge testament still to the fact that Iowa State 7-0. I hate going into this rhetoric because I know it really upsets people, but Iowa State hasn't always been in this position.
No.
It's a good way to look at a bad thing, I guess.
Right. Like I'm not taking away from this sucking. Like Iowa State officially dropped in the AP poll to number 17, which was expected when you lose a game like this, but
I don't know any Iowa State fan that would be mad that if they would have told them, "Hey, Iowa State 7-1 in week 8." Granted, I know that's never fun to listen to, but
right.
I mean, realistically, if someone told us that, I'd be pretty pumped.
Yeah, that means my projection of 12-0 is officially over. 11-1.
Hey, you just threw that out last week, didn't you?
No, I threw that out at work with some buddies week 1 before the first game. I threw it out. I was like, "Yeah, they're beating Iowa. They're rolling everybody." Well, this is the first week that I'm wrong. So
I really wanted them to stay undefeated so I could say the first season we do this podcast, Iowa State goes undefeated. But
how about Iowa State wins a Big 12 championship, because that's still in front of us.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We can never be mad with that, can we?
No, of course not.
It's just one game along the journey, you know. We've set ourselves up to still control our own destiny. We just gotta continue to, you know, stack days.
I do think it will be interesting, and going forward, right? They do have a lot to look for and play for still yet this season, which is awesome. How they come out of this how they come out of this first loss of the season. Obviously, everything's been going well for them. How they handle adversity, going down to a Kansas who's, you know, maybe bouncing back a little bit, and they had the players and coaches to be able to go out there and make a run here still this season. Being able to go out there and come off your first loss in practice, it'll be interesting to see how they answer. I have a gut feeling that all these guys, just from what we've kind of heard in media, seeing how they play, we'll see a positive response. And I think that's something that maybe, a minor setback, and Iowa State comes out and really takes that next step to get better.
Well, coming off the bye, I know this was kind of touched on a little bit earlier. I think Jirehl brought it up. But coming off of a bye, what did you see that maybe held them back? Like, why was it so difficult for them to come into this game after bye? Because you would think they're freshened up, they've had time off, they've had more time to prepare. Like, what maybe is the negative of coming into this after a bye?
I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was either the mailbag episode last week or the week before, where I said that you can lose on a bye week, and that's either over preparing where guys get too tired and they don't come into the game as fresh as you would want them to off of a bye week, or just guys stinking just because it's a bye week. They don't have to prepare for a game twice as hard. You know, when you're going into a bye week, 7-0, something that the school has never done before. A bye week could give players and coaches time to overthink things, try and change things up that don't need to be changed up. You know, it could work good and bad. And I think Iowa State probably lost the bye week. I mean, I don't want to be just because they lost the bye week. I think the way that they played, it showed that they lost the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, keys there were penalties and lack of rhythm. Those are both things that Iowa State has been winning football for Iowa State. They've won football games because they've been the less penalized team. They've won turnover margins and they played team football. And unfortunately, this week we didn't have that, which has created a lot of rhythm, a lot of juice. Offense helping the defense helping the offense, special teams helping both. So that's just one thing that, hey, coming off the bye week, a week off when you're in season. It's super nice to players because, hey, your body gets right a little bit. Maybe you get a little more sleep. You don't have quite the preparation to get ready for a week. The week slows down. But we're also, when you're playing, you're a creature of habit. You know what I mean? You know your Monday practice, you know your Tuesday practice, you know your Wednesday practice, you know what the lifts are going to be like, you know all that stuff. And when all of a sudden you may have a day off, all of a sudden, you know, your internal clock changes just a little bit. So that's one thing that you always have to battle a little bit is, hey, I don't have to prepare for a game this Saturday. What are you going to do? What are your habits going to look like? And how are you going to make sure that you're ready to be prepared? Is certainly something that, you know, can change things off. And then, hey, guess what? Iowa State comes out and doesn't have the rhythm that they've had all season.
When you guys, you know, you come off of a loss, like you've consistently said, I'm sure the routine looks the same. And Jirehl, I think, said it. You have a week to sit with the loss. Does that change how the team is going to prepare for Kansas? Like today, for example, does today change at all? Because now there's a sour taste in everyone's mouth because you're coming off of a loss. Because I feel like obviously the UCF game wasn't necessarily the prettiest. And there were other games we've had the same conversation where it wasn't the prettiest, but they still pulled the win. Well, now they have to kind of face the fact that, well, it kind of wasn't pretty ever and they never found a way to win. So how does today look? How does the rest of the week look? Or is it truly as easy as saying, well, now we just got to refocus?
I feel like, and this isn't me saying this is how Campbell's going to react to it, but I feel like Campbell will react as harshly as needed. Because, I mean, with this being the first loss of the season, even if it's little thing, like, because I think the game was really lost off of little things. Like, it wasn't, I don't think it was like massive things. Like, I really couldn't pick out like one thing that lost the game. It was a bunch of little things that led up to a loss. And it was the perfect picture of that. But I think Campbell will be as harsh as possible on those little things to make sure that they don't happen again. Especially because, I mean, you're going into an environment this week where those things won't be able to happen because, I mean, Kansas, you know, they're not having the best year, but they're not a team that you could just say we're going to win against. And I mean, that's obviously every team in the Big 12, every team in college football for real, because on any given day, anybody can win. So I think he's going to really, I mean, the whole coaching staff is going to hammer down on the details that especially on a day like today. They're going to hammer down on all the things that they messed up on, or the blocks that they missed, hole fits that they missed on. They're going to fix all that, and then you got to flush it. You got to move on to the next one. You can't hang your head on past games.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with everything Jirehl said. Fix and flush. Everyone is, there's not going to be a ton of guys in that locker room. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that had great plays, great games, things like that. But everyone can look in the mirror and say, hey, there was one or two plays that they probably could have made that could change the outcome of that game, right? There's so many things that are like, hey, you can look at that play. That was the one that, did it. But as a player, and what's so great about this staff is they make sure that an entire football game is not won or lost in one play. It's how you prepare, how we get ready. You got to win that game during the week, not just on Saturday. So being able to come out and refocus, know what they're going to do, how they're going to fix it. And I think we'll see a motivated team in practice this week, which will hopefully then turn around and be a really motivated team coming out Saturday with something to prove.
When you guys look back at this game, are there things you think Iowa State, I guess, yes, there are things Iowa State could have done differently to win the game, but from you as an individual, what do you think they could have done? What specific areas do you think could have really helped things turn around for them?
Penalties. I mean, that's how we've won games this year. We offensively, big plays. That's kind of been a motto. We've had a lot of things. Obviously, Jalen and Jaden had some big plays this year. Just kind of staying ahead of the chains. It seemed like a lot of times our first down efficiency wasn't quite the greatest, which sets everything off. It's really hard to play in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, or even backed up when you have a false start on 1st and 10, things like that. So I think just seeing those changes are all super correctable, right? Hey, how do we make sure that we get the right situations? That first and 2nd down are really important, so we can be in 3rd and 2 or 3, still be able to run the ball, still be able to throw the ball, whatever you need to do to be able to be uber aggressive, which has been Iowa State's motto this year on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able on the defensive side, being able to stop the run. I think I've said it almost every episode. Our ability to stop the run just isn't the best. And I mean, once it gets down later into the season, like the ability to stop the run and to run the ball, those two things are going to be like you're going to need them, especially later on down the season when it gets colder. We're going to be playing in colder atmospheres. Running the ball, we have to be able to run the ball, and we have to be able to stop the run. And those are just, if we could do those two things, everything else will open up for us. We'll be able to play from ahead. Teams will have to pass the ball on us. Our DBs will be able to do what they have been doing all year. And in zone coverage, at least, not necessarily man coverage, as we saw at the end of the game yesterday. But
super good.
But once we get in, once we're able to play from ahead, we'll be able to drop 8 and just be able to play the way that we want to play. And if we can do that, then we'll be okay. We'll be all right.
What's so unique to me about yesterday's game is, like, you look at the statistical categories, and Iowa State, you feel like should have probably won that football game. 430 yards of offense. Turnover battle was dead even. Penalties, obviously we had more than we've been having. We're the number 1 least penalized team in college football this year up into this game. And then, we had 430 yards offense. If you take out some of those situations, like that last drive that Texas Tech had, I mean, tip your cap to them on that drive, because they caught us in our nickel defense where we had 8 DBs in there, which I thought was an awesome. I really enjoyed watching that defense play. But they went fast when we got into that defense, and they had some big rushes against that defense, which is, one of those things that's like you got caught.
Why were we expecting pass so much? Like, they have been running the ball on us all night. I don't know why we were expecting pass so much.
Well, I know we ran that. We had the nickel defense out there. Then we went to base defense. They picked up a first down, I think, or got it into like a third and short. They subbed, and we went back to it. And then they caught us in a couple run plays where it was like, I think maybe 30-plus yards at least, I would say, of rushes in that drive where, we couldn't sub. They were going fast, and we were stuck with that defense out there.
Yeah. I don't know. The last drive was making me mad, man. Just
because our defense
just run the ball straight down our throats, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, bro!"
Our defense. I went through like the drives, and I think like 5 of the 12 drives, they had single digits or less as offense. So they were like 3 and outs essentially, or negative yards. So the defense played overall, I would say, a good game. But
we started the drive. We started the drive 1st and 15, and they picked up 15 yards on the first carry.
Yeah, that 4th down was tough too.
We'll talk about Iowa State's slow start. This is something that Coach Campbell himself brought up in the post game. How Iowa State has just struggled to have a better start almost in every game. Talk about what you guys see from Iowa State and what's really holding them back from being the team to score first, just even that.
Execution. I mean, I feel like everything is kind of is like, I don't see a problem with play calling. They take shots when there needs to be shots taken. Like, they run the ball, they try and run it to pass it. Like, I don't see anything with play calling. I think it's just execution at times. The run game didn't start off the best, if I remember correctly, yesterday. So, I mean, that not having the run game, obviously the rhythm's kind of off there. Newell said it earlier, when you start, when you get in like 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, then you're in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. It's kind of hard to continue getting first downs. And really what you're trying to do is get that first down. Then it builds up. You can at least try and get into field goal range. But when you get into the red zone, I think our red zone, finishing in the red zone hasn't been the best for us. When you get in the red zone and the area shrinks, it's not the safeties come down a little bit more. They're in the run gaps more, and they're also able to play the wide receivers as easy as well. So it's just harder to score once you get into that. But I don't know. Execution is just, especially in those areas, that it's key, and I don't think we've done the best at it.
I certainly agree with that. I think execution is certainly a large part of it. We've had opportunities this year where we've gone out and we've started on fire, big pass here. Before we know it, we got a touchdown in 2 or 3 plays. The crowd's excited. That's the thing. It's kind of like the elephant in the room. Everyone knows that you need to start fast because it sets the tempo. You get the crowd either into the game or you take the crowd out of the game, whether you're at home or away. And I mean, like we've given up quite a few first. When our defense is out there, we've given up a touchdown. It seems like in a fair amount of drives. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows Coach Haycock's going to be able to adapt, overcome. But it's one of those things. When you talk about it, it's like, oh man, we know that's what they're talking about that in the locker room. They're talking about that in meetings so much. Like, hey, we got to start fast. And then it's like, okay, well, what do we got to do? What do we got to do differently to make sure that we do that? Like, we're prepared, we're doing all this stuff, but you just got to get off your back and figure out a way to do it a couple games in a row. And before you know it, I think they'll be out of that slump.
You bring up the point of, our defense usually giving up that first drive touchdown, and our offense not scoring that first touchdown. But it makes it really hard when you win the toss. Like, what do you want to do? Give up a touchdown or not score a touchdown? I mean, when the stats are that way, obviously you want to be like, okay, our offense is going to score the first time today. First time we touched the ball today. It's just hard when you say that and then you don't score, and then your game plan kind of has to change, and you're not running exactly what you practiced all week. So I don't know. I think they'll figure it out. I feel like this week we'll score. It's just a gut feeling. I feel like we're going to score first drive this week, and I feel like our defense is going to get a stop first drive this week. So we can play this back next week if I'm right.
The thing about it is we know that our defense and offense both are good enough that if you get that 7 or 14-point lead, like, good luck to any team that you play. We just need to get in that situation where we can play that good team football instead of playing uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you can play from ahead, it's so much better for the whole team. You can run the ball. It takes pressure off the offensive line. It takes pressure off the defensive line. They could play freely and just rush the passer. It takes pressure off of the linebackers and DBs so they can they don't have to drop down for the run because they know a team's trying to pass the ball and get points. So when you can play from ahead, it's so much better. But you got to get those first points and get those first stops.
So with yesterday, I think it would be really interesting to hear your perspectives on just, your positions that you played in. Colin, we can start with you since it seemed like there was a lot of chatter around people being disappointed in how the O-line played, a lot of comments about Hufford. Would love to know your thoughts on how the O-line, performed, on Hufford overall. What were your thoughts walking out of that?
Yeah, first of all, tip your cap to that box front from Texas Tech. They blitzed a ton, like a ton, which is never as a fun position as an offensive lineman to be in, because you're having to think through so many different things on, hey, what blitz are they running? What's it going to be? What do I got to be prepared for? And we didn't come out and run the ball right away. Great. So when you come out and you can establish a run, you're forcing teams to play base defense. When you stay ahead of the sticks, you're going to be able to play, you're on 2nd and 6, you can still run the ball. You're not in 2nd and 9 where you kind of are forced into passing it, and then they can bring up the heat. So execution-wise, obviously, I don't think it was be fair. I think it would be fair to say that was not our cleanest game. But there's a lot of good that can still come out of that. There's some plays where guys we still rotated a lot of offensive linemen. I don't know if that was out of health. I don't know if that was out of that's just kind of the plan that they went into the game with, or if they saw something that they didn't think a guy was playing as well as he could have potentially. As far as Hufford, I know he caught some flack too for that down the field, legal man downfield. That's an RPO. That's such a hard thing to do. I
that's
have to imagine
tough.
that Rocco's probably taking some ownership on that too. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. RPO football is you're playing with fire a little bit because that ball's got to be out quick. So
I felt bad for him too because I knew he was going to get some slack for that, but I know that's so tough as an offensive lineman to be taught to be aggressive and then say that you have to hold back on something like that when you're not even told that it's a run pass option. You're just thinking run the whole time.
Yeah, and it's super unique. Like most of the time they say like, hey, if you start to see that linebacker dip out of there, like, hey, try to put the brakes on, but you may be 3 or 4 yards down the field already, and you may try to be backing up and slyly walking back towards the offensive line, just hope no one saw you. But it takes one ref to see that. So that's a tough situation to be in. You want to be aggressive, especially when like I said, we hadn't really worn out their defense at that point in the game. So you're trying to be physical, you're trying to set the tone. He was uncovered, so there's a lot of things that go there. I'm really not. I don't look at that play and I'm like, wow, Hufford, what are you doing? Like that was definitely him going out there being aggressive. Like I'm totally looking past that one with not much thought, to be honest with you. But I think they're going to bounce back. I think that's an older group on the offensive line. You got a lot of seniors. You do have some young guys obviously in there as well. But I've been happy with what they've done. Maybe a slight step back. I see them coming back, and that ignites a little bit of fire into them between these last 2 games, saying, hey, we do got to get better. The team kind of goes as the offensive line goes. And that's true of any football team. When offensive line doesn't play great, life gets a little bit difficult. Quarterback has to scramble a little bit more. And a lot of that's, to being able to come out as an offense early, establish run game, protect the quarterback, get ahead in the sticks, and be able to run base stuff instead of saying, "Hey, we got to go make something happen."
Jirehl, what about you? We saw the running backs, all over the field. We saw Abu get some time.
Yeah, I was really excited about how Abu played. I think the way he ran is kind of how I thought, like, that was how he ran last year against K-State. Downhill. He wasn't there were a few times where he still tried to bounce it outside when it's just there was one play where D-line blew straight through the hole, and he tried to bounce it outside, and it went backwards for like 4 yards. Like, there, I would just say, like, just to get back to the line of scrimmage, like, don't lose that 4, because then, like we were saying earlier, like, you're starting 2nd and 14 instead of 2nd and 9. Like, if you can get to 2nd and 10 instead of 2nd and 14, like, that's obviously a lot easier to manage as an offensive coordinator. But no, I was super excited to see the way he was running the ball. He made some big plays for us. Man, if we just could score after he got to the 1 yard line on there, I think the game would have been a lot different, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, how the game really wasn't on one play, how there was a bunch of little plays that, like, added up to this being a loss. I feel like not scoring on that one was one of the momentum, like, shifters. Not being able to get into the end zone on that, because that was such a great run, and only getting to the 1 yard line there, and then having the false start and getting backed up. It's tough. Took 3. Because that was when we didn't go for it on 4th down, as well. So, but in all, I feel like Carson ran the ball pretty well. I want to see Jalen Jackson get back to the Jalen Jackson, the action Jackson that we had at the beginning of the season. I feel like, I don't know, he's so explosive, bro. If we could just get him into space, he can definitely make some plays for our offense.
I feel like he's so close.
Yeah,
like, he's so many shoestring tackles that he's getting taken out on.
So many times, yeah. Those backside D linemen come down the line and grab him by a hair right before he's about to turn the corner. There's a lot of those times, but yeah, hopefully Abu can keep up the way that he's been running. Carson's been running great. And as you can see, like, how I kind of talked about, knowing when a running back's in a groove, keeping them in and knowing that it's his time, letting him go and just making that a running back by committee. And it was Abu's turn to go yesterday, and they really let him go. But just being able to finish those runs down in the red zone, that's what's going to be the big part of it. I think that's kind of Newell. I don't know how you thought the O-line did down there, but I know that's a tough place to be, especially when they start bringing in 5 D linemen. It's tough to get in there. But I don't know how you felt about how our red zone, like, offensive line play was.
Yeah, I think so much. I was talking a little bit on the reaction show last night, is how much defense has changed once you get in, like, a certain yard line. Like, I remember we would, in our scouting reports, it'd be like, hey, once you break the 12-yard line, say, like, how they play defense is different. Like, their whole fundamentals, what they believe in, how that defensive coordinator calls the defense is going to change. And at that point,
a big one was Iowa. When we played Iowa, their goal line D was, like, totally different than what they.
So it's truly like a completely different game plan. And if you don't live in the red zone, you may take, if you don't figure it out time number 1, it may you the second time, whatever it may be, it takes a little while to actually be able to truly adjust and know exactly how they're going to play it. Teams throw wrinkles, especially in the red zone, because at that point it's like, hey, we need to let up 3 points, not 7 points. So that's
I think our defense does a really good job of that a lot of times too. It's just playing so differently once you get down there in the goal line and only letting a team get 3 and not getting 7, and that's huge. So when that's happening to us on the other side, it doesn't resonate.
Yeah. Yesterday I felt like was one of those situations kind of where like replay is great. It makes the game more accurate. But I feel like, dang it, if we could have just gone up there, run quarterback sneak, we score a touchdown there. I have to think. But, instead we come back, we think on it, come out, have a false start. If we would have been able to run up on the ball like Rocco was getting the guy's head, we're going to get on the ball, here we go. You got to think that you score that at least 1 in 3 times. And, it's I'm not going to blame it on replay, but just felt kind of like, dang it, we had some momentum coming off a big Abu run. Let's go pound this in. Crowd's into it. Juicy Wiggle comes on, all that. But I do want to give a little shout out to the defensive line too. We got some pressure after the quarterback yesterday, which it's been a little while prior to this. I thought that they played a pretty solid game.
Yeah, there were a bunch of great stuff after the game for some of those guys. Like Marcus Neal had his first career sack and first career forced fumble. Let's see what else we got in here. J.R. Singleton had his 4th sack of the season.
That's great production for him.
That play was so weird. I don't even know what they were trying to do. It's like a screen, but their whole line like dropped down.
Yeah, they tried
on their
to cut.
bellies, and then I think it looked like they were throwing like a fake screen, go or something like that on the other side, or like a hitch on the other side or something like that. I don't know. It was weird, but they just like expect their offensive line to like catch our D line's knees to give their quarterback more time, but he just had nowhere to go. So JR just got a free sack.
Yeah, I haven't watched that back, and maybe you guys didn't see it or not, but when I watched, I couldn't tell. All of a sudden I saw JR just run up through the line. Did they miscommunicate and think another person was going to cut him and he just ran right through, or did he dodge the cut?
Well, I think he dodged the cut and then just went ran straight through, and obviously they couldn't trip him with their hands.
Yeah.
So I think he just got a free run at him. I don't know.
Yeah, that quarterback.
I didn't see exactly how it went. I think the D line was confused, so nobody kind of ran at the quarterback other than JR.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out. Well, I will take this time for us to give a shout out to our sponsors, specifically, first off, our presenting sponsor, Wyffels Hybrids, who, as I've shared, is an independent, family-owned seed company. So if you're looking for a seed company, Wyffels Hybrids is the best one to go to because they're cyclones supporting cyclones. And of course, as always, they support us here at Cyclone Fanatic, specifically InCYde Zone. So they're helping corn growers achieve more productive, profitable crops. And they're just huge, proud supporters of Iowa State. If you're looking to start your journey towards a business degree, what better place to do it than at the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State? They are the largest undergraduate business college in Iowa. So if you're looking for your next passion, head over to Iowa State, best place to be, as we all have Iowa State degrees.
Hey, I'm going to say buy some We Will pizza too, because that stuff is fire. I don't know if you guys have had that. I had a We Will pizza for lunch.
I haven't yet.
Oh my gosh.
Well, not the ones at the stadium. I've had the frozen pizzas.
Yeah. That stuff is good though. I had one for lunch today.
I love a good pizza.
I was going to say something. I was going to make a joke about Abu, about how, of course, he has a good game the day that we have horrible weather.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's like he was made to go to the Bills or or something like that. Green Bay, something like that, bro. He was get him up there, he'll run for 100 a game.
I did talk to someone in the stands yesterday. I wish I would have remembered this. I'm putting myself on the spot here, but he was saying that exact same thing. He's like, we just need to make sure that we get some rain clouds over, or some snow clouds over, or Jack Trice, or wherever we're playing whenever Abu's about to go out there.
Somebody get some fake snow. Put it all over Jack Trice. He sees it. He comes out. He's like, ooh. It's my time to go.
Well, they're headed to Kansas City to play Kansas at Arrowhead. Colin, I take it you're going from the way you've been talking about it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I will
Kansas
also
City and
be
Iowa
there.
State just go well together.
Yes. Jirehl, I take it you won't be able to go.
No. Y'all have fun, though. I'll be watching, and I'll be cheering on my boys. You know, one person I do want to give a shout out to, Miles Purchase. I thought he played it the game of his
Miles.
career. I thought he played the game of his career yesterday.
Yeah, he picked off the first pass of his career and had 23 career pass breakups entering the game in his 46th career game.
That was
No,
his
I thought he
first
played-
interception?
I thought he played really well.
Mhm.
I thought he played really well.
Yeah. He another fun note after in the post game, if I'm sure people who listen to all the guys' interviews, but they said that Jalen Newell was the one who gave a post game speech to the team.
That don't surprise me.
Yeah, the boys were a little short, you know, they were not in the best mood, but they did say that Jalen gave a good speech, got him a little fired up there. So
He's going back home.
man.
He's going to have a breakout
It is. Yeah, it's a long season. There's four games, 4 guaranteed
Regular.
games left.
yeah.
I guess not necessarily guaranteed anymore because we already got the other game, but we shooting and striving for more than just a bowl game right now. But there's still a lot of football to be played, and like I said, you can't hang your head on this one. You gotta be able to flush it. Before you flush it, you gotta be able to evaluate. Look yourself in the mirror and be able to tell yourself what you did wrong and what you need to do better, and just be able to move on from that. And then you flush it and move on to the next one. Just give it a
It's November, and Iowa State controls their destiny.
yeah.
You know, that's something that's got to have us excited, and that's got to have the locker room excited to get themselves out of this situation where, like Jirehl said, hey, what do we do wrong? How do we make it right and move forward? Because we still do have a lot to play for.
Yeah, I know everybody's itching to get back onto the field and get that monkey off their back. Get a win back in the column.
Do you guys think there's an advantage for them to be going into this, like their next game being this specific game where you're going into a neutral site, it's against Kansas, you're leaving Ames? Do you think this will work out in their favor?
Yeah. Iowa State has a good reputation in Kansas City.
Yeah, I think you make it work in your favor just by preparation and everything this week. Not letting one loss lead to a train of losses, or not letting mistakes roll over into this game. Just get better from the past game, and I don't think a loss could have came at a better time this season, I'd say. Losing that one at home, it hurts. But it also gives, 4 more games for you to stack days and get into your best football of the year come postseason. Once we're, if we can go on a little run right here, going into postseason, get into the Big 12 championship game, and get going. And that's just looking further on down the road. But just for knowing, harping on little things, I don't think a loss could have came at a better time. Obviously, you don't want a loss to ever happen, but if it were to happen, I'd rather it be now, not at the beginning of the year, and then also not at the end of the year. Now it's just like, lock back in.
Yeah, we got a tough stretch ahead of us. Allow this to be, something that propels the team, brings them together, and says, hey, we got a lot to play for. We got this brotherhood here. I know we're not quite to that point, but for seniors, things like that, like leaving their legacy type situation. Like, hey, how are we going to respond? Because, we've already written some history, changed the history books by how we started the season. Like, let's not let that just be the only thing that we leave our name in the history books for. So I think that this senior leadership, I think this team, I think Coach Campbell, all coming together is certainly going to be something that's going to be special. And we'll look back at this as, kind of one of those bumps in the road that forced Iowa State to truly grow forward.
Yeah, Iowa State it'll be Kansas, and then it's Cincinnati, Utah, and then we'll finish it off at home with Kansas State. And
they're always like the last game of the year. Always the last game of the year.
Bring a foot of snow.
I was going to say, do you like that? Do you hate that?
And don't bother me no more.
Well, even as far as Big 12 standings, I mean, BYU is officially the only team in the conference that's 5-0. And other than that, Iowa State and Colorado are 4-1. Kansas State, Texas Tech are 4-2, and then the rest. So I know some people will obviously have a sour taste, and some people are a little irrationally angry and upset. But like you guys said, there's still 4 games in this regular season, and Iowa State, I truly believe, can win out. So
yep, use it for good.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
I think that'll be all right. We know how to adjust.
It's in the adjustments.
Adjustments.
Well, Colin and I guess I don't know. Colin, do you know if Jake is going next week, or Jirehl? Do you guys know if he's going?
I don't know.
I'd assume so. I'd assume so.
See you in the power and light.
I'd assume so.
All right. Well, we will.
Who knows? Maybe I'll get talked into going this week.
Okay. So meet in the square, in the main square by the big screen of Power and Light.
Little DJ Diesel coming back.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, we'll be back next Sunday, probably very tired from our travels. Clearly, it sounds like. And we'll break down whatever goes down in this game against Kansas at Arrowhead. So we'll be back next week, hopefully on a brighter note. Yeah, hopefully on a post-win. It's more fun to podcast when we have a win to discuss.
We'll let the players know.
Yeah, if they're listening, But we'll be back next week. As always, shout out to our presenting sponsor, Wyffels Hybrids. Thanks, guys.